morning, Summa scholars. Here we are back on the Beaver Galleon. Let's see how this goes. If you don't know me, I'm Craig Kinsey, lead singer of Sideshow Tramps and other music works that are on Spotify. And also, I'm doing a daily Summa, which I started last year on this day, the feast day of St. Thomas Aquinas, January 28th. And I'll explain maybe after the teaching is over why I stopped doing it, why I'm doing it now, and we'll see if it continues to sail. But I do live a vagabond life, and I travel around out of my Honda Element. And right now I'm renting month by month this little room here, and these are my books, and I have them set up in this bookshelf they have, and I'm going to teach St. Thomas Aquinas's Summa Theologica. Many of you have already seen this and you know what's going on. If there's any questions in the chat, I'll answer them at the end. But if not, let's go now. Let's just get started with question 22, the providence of God. And we'll see what Thomas Aquinas and others have to say about the providence of God. If you're my atheist friends, Hank, Daria, Joff, you can also join in the fun because Thomas poses many questions that you might think are against God. The people who are with him are asking difficult questions, trying to disprove the existence of God, and Thomas is going to answer all those. He's also going to quote pretty soon, probably tomorrow. We're doing 1 page a day of this Summa Theologica. Tomorrow we're going to get some heavy hitters like Averroes, I think, or Avicenna, probably Averroes, who is Muslim. We get Democritus. We get, who else? Oh, Epicurus. So we have a lot of questions from many different schools of thought that all collect here in the Summa. So everybody can join in the fun and see if we can poke holes in Thomas Aquinas' belief in God and what he thinks about the divine life. So let's start. Question 22, Providence of God. Having considered all the relations to the will absolutely, we must now proceed to those things which have relation to both intellect and will, namely providence. In respect to all created things, predestination and reprobation, and all that is connected with these acts, in respect especially of man as regards his eternal salvation. For in the science of morals, often the moral virtues themselves, comes the consideration of prudence, to which providence would seem to belong. Concerning God's providence, there are 4 points of inquiry. Number 1, whether providence is suitably assigned to God. Ooh, the sun's coming out. Whether everything comes under divine providence. Whether divine providence is immediately concerned with all things. And whether divine providence imposes any necessity upon things foreseen. That's always a big question with people. All right, here we go. Article 1, whether providence can suitably be attributed to God. Objection number 1, Thomas's students, and we're calling this first one of objection 1 Larry. He is one of the beavers on this Beaver Galleon. If you don't know what the Beaver Galleon is, then you haven't been watching previous episodes. Go back and check them out, but you'll figure it out as we go along. Objection 1 from Larry. It seems that providence is not becoming to God. For providence, according to Tully, which is Marcus Tullius Cicero, about 100 years before the time of Christ, Roman philosopher, according to Tully, is part of prudence. Providence is part of prudence. But prudence, since, according to the philosopher, which is Aristotle, it gives good counsel, cannot belong to God, who never has any doubt for which he should take counsel. Therefore, providence cannot belong to God. He's saying that how can God have counsel when he doesn't need to consult with anyone? So therefore, since providence is connected, according to Tully and Aristotle, to prudence, how can you ascribe providence to God? All right, we'll get to the answers later. First, we're doing the objections, as is the custom of the Summa. Objection 2, I think it's Ralph. This beaver walks up and says, further, to Thomas, whatever is in God is eternal, but providence is not anything eternal. Oops. Guys, I forgot to put the mic on. Oh, classic. I know you're still going to be able to hear this, but we'll try to have better sound for you tomorrow. But providence is not anything eternal, for it is concerned with existing things that are not eternal, according to Damascene. Therefore, there is no providence in God. 3, objection, and I can't remember what that beaver's name is, but 3, Further, there is nothing composite in God, but providence seems to be something composite because it includes both the intellect and will. Therefore, providence is not in God. All right, those are the objections. Thomas says, first thing he does, if you don't remember, is an argument from authority, which is the weakest sort of argument, and then he goes into an argument using logic. So first, the argument from authority. On the contrary, sed contra. It is said in the book of Wisdom 14:3, but thou, Father, governest all things by providence. So we have, somebody's in the chat. What's up? Let's see who it is. I think we can see the chat, but I'm not positive yet. We'll get it all figured out. All right, so that's the argument from authority. Let's go to the logic. Thomas says, respondio, I answer that. It is necessary to attribute providence to God. For all the good that is in created things has been created by God, as shown above in question 6, article 4. In created things, God is found not only as regards their substance, but also as regards their order towards an end, and especially their last end, which, it was said above, is the divine goodness. Okay, this good or of order existing in things created is itself created by God. Since, however, God is the cause of things by his intellect, and thus it behooves that the type of every effect should pre-exist in him, as is clear from what is said before in question 19, article 4. Again, I'm going to read every single word here of Thomas, and it's going to sometimes sound like gobbledygook, and then we'll see if we can get it figured out later. Just follow along. It is necessary that the type of the order of things toward their end should pre-exist in the divine mind, and the type of things ordered towards an end is, properly speaking, providence. For it is the chief part of prudence, to which two other parts are directed, namely remembrance of the past and understanding of the present, inasmuch as from the remembrance of what is past and the understanding of what is present, we gather how to provide for the future. Now, it belongs to prudence, according to the philosopher Aristotle, to direct other things towards an end, whether in regard to oneself, as for instance, a man is said to be prudent, who orders well his acts towards the end of his life, or in regard to others subject to him, as in a family or a city or a kingdom if he's a king, in which sense it is said, a faithful and wise servant whom his Lord approveth over his family. So Thomas is starting to make an argument that it is the nature of prudence to understand the past and the present, and then that teleologically in regards to what's happening in the future. And let's go on further, and I'll explain how Thomas solves this little riddle. In this way, prudence of providence may suitably be attributed to God, for in God himself there can be nothing ordered towards an end, since he is the last end. This type of order in things towards an end is therefore in God called providence. Whence Boethius says that providence is the divine type itself, seated in the supreme ruler which disposeth all things, which disposition may refer either to the type of the order of the things towards an end or the type of the order of parts in the whole. Okay, now we're going to get to the objections and he answers them, but first let me try to explain. Thomas is trying to show that in our space-time reality, we know the past and we know the present and we order it towards the future. In God, that is all one. So since it's all one in God, we still use the term providence as a way of explaining to our minds God seeing the past, the present, and the future, and ordering all of these things according to some telos, some goal at the end, which is the divine goodness. So Thomas is going to go on through this question and show many facets of that jewel, that little idea, and flesh it out and spirit it out, I suppose, and show how that can be and in which way that's possible. But the basic idea is, in God, all things are seen, and it's all directed towards a final end, which is his divine goodness and the goodness that he's sharing with us. And this we are calling providence, God's causal and formal and teleological sustaining of all being in his eternal knowledge. All right, so let's try to pick apart Thomas's argument here with his reply. Let's show his response to these guys trying to pick apart his argument. His reply to objection 1. According to the philosopher, Prudence is what, strictly speaking, commands all the ebulia, has rightly counseled, and synesis rightly judged. Whence, though to take counsel may not be fitting to God from the fact that counsel is an inquiry into matters that are doubtful, nevertheless, to give a command as to the ordering of things towards an end, the right reason of which he possesses, does belong to God. According to Psalm 148, he hath made a decree, and it shall not pass away. In this manner, both prudence and providence belong to God. Although at the same time it may be said that the very reason of things to be done is called counsel in God, not because of any inquiry necessitated. Remember, that's what Larry's objection was. How can he be prudent and provident when that implies asking a question? Thomas is saying, in God, it does not require counsel, although at the same time it may be said that the very reason of things to be done is called counsel in God, not because of any inquiry necessitated, but from the certitude of the knowledge, to which those who take counsel come by inquiry. Again, that's what I've always said in the Summa. We're toggling back and forth between divine and human perspective. So Thomas just said it there. In the divine perspective, there's no inquiry, there's no need to take counsel, but we receive counsel from the truths that he's displayed to us, either by human logic and reason, which is reasoned out in the space-time adventure we're on, or through scripture, or through the counsel of the church. Whence it is said, who worketh all things according to the counsel of his will, Ephesians. Reply to objection dos. Two things pertain to the care of providence, namely the reason of order, which is called providence and disposition, and the execution of order, which is termed government. Of these, the first is eternal and the second is temporal. So Thomas is replying to Ralph and saying, okay, I see what you're saying. Kings take counsel, fathers take counsel, but that's how it trickles down into our space-time existence. But in God, it's the beginning. The two pertain to the care of providence, namely the reason of order. So providence is a reason of order, and within God, that all is eternally existed and existing, or eternally existing. Reply to objection 3, and we're getting to the bottom of the page. It's been 12 minutes. I'm going to try to do these faster and then move from this into chat, perhaps on another channel, and spend some time chatting, maybe in locals. We'll get it figured out. We'll do some chatting here if the day comes that should be possible. But I'm going to try to just run through the teachings more quickly so that we can every day hear some of the limpid and clear light of St. Thomas in our hectic and crazy world we're in. Reply to objection 3. Providence resides in the intellect, but presupposes the act of willing the end. Nobody gives a precept about things done for an end unless he will that end. And that's the end of that page. We're going to just stop right at the end of that page and then pick the rest of it up tomorrow. But providence resides in the intellect and the act of willing. And Thomas is going to say that in God, intellect and will are one thing. Thank you, everybody, for enjoying this with me today. Let us see if we can go boop. See you guys later.